The ballroom shimmered with lights that made every surface look polished except the one I stood on. I moved between the tables carrying trays that never seemed to empty, aware that no one saw the person holding them. The CEO's daughter entered with the calm confidence of someone raised to expect admiration, and she placed her glass on my tray without looking at my face. I stepped aside, steady and silent, absorbing the message that I existed only to make her night easier. I had felt overlooked before, but that moment held a particular clarity because it revealed how deeply entitlement can shape a room. From the service door, I watched the executives applaud forecasts they barely understood. The energy in the room pulsed with ambition and certainty while I observed it from a shadowed corner. The daughter sat at the center table, her posture relaxed, certain that influence followed her naturally. She did not lead anything, but everyone behaved as if she would inherit authority simply by waiting for it. Her confidence fascinated me more than it angered me because it showed how power often grows from perception rather than performance. During dessert service, she called me over again and pointed at a cloth she believed was wrinkled. Her voice carried across the table and pulled a few amused glances from the people beside her. I smoothed the fabric with calm hands, not because she deserved the attention, but because anger would have made me small. The silence I kept allowed me to watch more carefully, and that was the moment something shifted inside me. I realized invisibility can protect as much as it wounds. When the guests left and the hall grew quiet, I collected forgotten documents from the tables. I read them without fear, sensing that the path ahead would come from what people failed to notice. Every morning I tied my apron with the same careful gesture, not because the uniform mattered, but because consistency helped me stay focused. The company believed a service role suited me since it kept me away from conversations they considered reserved for important people. I polished silverware in the back room while executives passed by speaking freely, convinced that my presence required no caution. Their comfort became my shield, a quiet place where I could listen without appearing curious. In that space, I noticed how often power revealed itself through careless remarks. During lunch shifts, I remained close enough to hear planning sessions disguised as casual talk. They discussed upcoming restructures, budget limits, and future candidates for positions that had never been posted publicly. My hands kept moving, but my mind stayed alert to every detail they let slip. They believed silence meant limitation, not comprehension. Their oversight taught me more about their priorities than any meeting I could have attended. On days when I cleaned the meeting rooms after events, I found scribbled notes left behind on chairs or forgotten under folders. These fragments showed me who doubted whom, who controlled decisions, and who relied on reputation rather than competence. I became skilled at piecing together information without drawing attention. The role they assigned to keep me small offered access they never intended. It revealed patterns that shaped decisions from the shadows. One afternoon, the CEO's daughter walked by the storage room and made a passing remark about staffing changes. She assumed I would not understand the implications. I kept organizing supplies while memorizing every word she shared so casually. That moment confirmed something essential. Underestimation can be an invitation if handled with patience. I left work that evening aware that the position meant to limit me had become a vantage point. From there, I could study the structure that tried to contain me. The evening after the gala, the ballroom looked entirely different without the glow of celebration. The chairs were stacked, the tables were bare, and the last traces of perfume faded into the quiet air. While gathering forgotten items, I noticed a pile of documents left near the podium. They seemed insignificant at first, but the weight of the folder suggested someone had carried it with purpose. I sat at the edge of a table and opened it carefully, expecting nothing more than schedules or decoration plans. Inside, I discovered contracts prepared for future investments along with drafts that had not yet been finalized. Some pages held annotations from different employees, each with distinct handwriting and varying levels of certainty. I recognized the names of partners the company relied on heavily and noticed one signature line that lacked any legal authority. Lines were crossed out without explanation. Figures were adjusted with no clarity. These inconsistencies revealed a pattern of assumptions made by people who believed titles were enough to secure agreements. Their confidence created gaps wide enough for mistakes to grow unnoticed. The more I read, the clearer it became that the company functioned on structure rather than charisma. Numbers directed the future, while speeches disguised the flaws. I studied each page slowly, committing the details to memory. Nothing about the task felt intrusive. It felt necessary. The information had been left behind because they believed no one in my position would understand its value. As I sorted the papers back into the folder, the lights dimmed completely, leaving me in a quiet hall illuminated only by the exit signs. The silence carried a new sense of direction. I was not holding secrets. I was holding opportunity. These pages revealed a world that ignored me while operating in plain sight. When I left the building, I carried no evidence, yet carried everything I needed. Knowledge, once gained, cannot be taken back. During the weeks that followed, I continued observing the company with the patience of someone who had learned the value of silence. My tasks remained the same, yet my attention carried a new precision. It was during one late afternoon that I noticed a senior administrator lingering near the supply room door. He watched me organize files with steady eyes that revealed curiosity rather than judgment. His presence felt different from the hurried movements of others who rarely acknowledged anyone outside their circle. He approached the counter and placed a stack of unused forms beside me before turning to leave. Something in his calm pace suggested intention. The next morning, I found updated schedules placed neatly on my cart, including details usually reserved for management. They were left without explanation. Nothing about the gesture demanded gratitude. It simply opened a window that had previously remained shut. As I examined the new information, I sensed that he understood more than he allowed others to see. Over the following days, I noticed that certain documents were no longer locked inside cabinets. They appeared in accessible locations without attracting attention. The administrator never looked at me directly for long periods, yet his quiet adjustments shaped new possibilities. He guided through placement rather than instruction. He respected boundaries while giving access. His support arrived in a form that carried no praise and required no performance. One afternoon, he passed by while reviewing a list of department revisions. He paused briefly, as if evaluating the space around us. Then he placed a folder on the edge of the desk and continued walking. I waited until the hallway emptied before opening it. Inside, I found records that clarified ongoing changes in leadership along with notes indicating who held real influence behind the scenes. The information confirmed what I had already suspected. Decisions were not made in the rooms where people raised their voices. They were made by those who understood the structure. That day, I realized mentorship does not always speak loudly. Sometimes it simply clears the path. When the position opened in administration, the announcement moved through the building with the excitement of a long-awaited change. People whispered names, compared strengths, and anticipated new alliances. I continued my routine without reacting, even when several employees hinted that my reliability made me a natural candidate. Their confidence did not influence me. I knew how the company operated. It valued presence far more than competence. As interviews took place behind closed doors, I cleaned the hallway outside, listening to footsteps and fragments of conversations that revealed more about expectations than decisions. Days passed before the final meeting occurred. I watched applicants enter with polished smiles and freshly ironed clothing while managers offered rehearsed greetings. The atmosphere carried the energy of a performance rather than a selection. When the chosen candidate emerged, applause erupted from a nearby office. She walked confidently toward the break room with a group eager to congratulate her. I remained near the service cart, observing the celebration with calm understanding. Her promotion reflected their preference for visible ambition rather than steady contribution. The moment felt predictable, yet it held a clarity I had not expected. Later that afternoon, the director called me in to express appreciation for my work. His tone carried a warm courtesy that avoided any direct mention of the opportunity. I listened without resentment. There was nothing to resent. The outcome confirmed what the structure valued and what it ignored. As I left his office, I felt a shift that did not come from disappointment. It came from release. I no longer waited for recognition from people who misread value. That evening, I walked through the nearly empty building and noticed how quiet the halls became once admiration settled elsewhere. I realized patience has limits, and mine had reached its final measure. Waiting had served its purpose. It taught me where the ceiling stood and why I needed to move beyond it. I left with the certainty that the future would not be granted. It would be taken. The night of the second gala arrived with the same grand decorations and polished atmosphere as the first, yet everything felt transformed. I no longer moved among the tables carrying trays. I entered through the main doors with a badge that allowed access to areas where my presence once caused confusion. As I walked into the ballroom, no one questioned my path. People greeted me with courteous nods, unaware of how recently they had overlooked the same person now moving with quiet authority. The shift was not dramatic. It was structural. Soft music filled the room as guests gathered near the center stage. The CEO's daughter stood among a group discussing upcoming projects, her confidence completely intact. She laughed easily, comfortable in her assumptions about the world around her. She did not see me approach the outer circle of conversation. She did not imagine any link between the person she once dismissed and the one now observing her with measured calm. Her certainty created a blind spot, and within that blind spot my new position took form. Throughout the evening, I navigated the event with a sense of steady intention. I reviewed schedules, monitored attendance, and confirmed details with staff who now relied on my oversight. Their trust developed quickly because I delivered results without seeking attention. Meanwhile, the daughter continued moving from table to table, unaware that the foundation beneath her had shifted. She treated each guest with the familiarity of someone expecting future privilege, assuming her path would unfold naturally. As the program progressed, I carried out tasks that shaped the direction of the evening. I managed logistics quietly, ensuring that the event flowed with precision. The authority I held required no announcement. It revealed itself through action. While she enjoyed the spotlight, I managed the structure that supported the spotlight. By the time the final speech approached, I understood something profound. Influence does not always stand at the center of the room. Sometimes it watches from places no one bothers to notice until the moment comes when noticing becomes unavoidable. The eviction did not begin with raised voices or hurried steps. It began with a simple review of access records that revealed inconsistencies linked directly to her personal use of company property. I had prepared the documentation carefully, ensuring each detail aligned with the policy framework that governed event management. Nothing required interpretation. Everything depended on procedure. When the final verification was completed, the decision became a matter of compliance rather than emotion. That clarity left no room for argument. During the gala, I moved through the ballroom with steady purpose, while the compliance team waited discreetly near the administrative wing. Their presence did not disturb the atmosphere. They observed quietly, allowing the festivities to continue without interruption. I monitored their signals from across the room and confirmed the moment when all required evidence had been validated. The shift in authority occurred silently. It did not need an audience. It needed accuracy. When the team entered the private lounge where she rested between speeches, the room remained calm. She reacted with disbelief, expecting her surname to shield her. She gestured toward guests as if their admiration validated her rights. None of it altered the decision. The compliance team moved with professional composure, collecting her badges and escorting her toward the exit reserved for procedural matters. Her words dissolved into the stillness because the structure guiding the process did not respond to tone. It responded only to verification. In the ballroom, the event continued without disruption. Conversations resumed, music softened, and guests remained unaware of the shift taking place behind closed doors. I stood near the staircase, observing the quiet efficiency with which authority reevaluated itself. She had relied on influence that lived only in perception. The documents lived in reality. When the door closed behind her, the atmosphere felt unchanged to everyone else. Yet I knew a chapter had ended. Real power had spoken, and it had spoken without raising its voice. If you have reached a stage in life where experiences weigh more than impressions, you already understand that silence carries its own intelligence. Many people believe maturity softens ambition, yet the opposite is often true. With time comes a clearer understanding of where energy belongs and where it no longer needs to be spent. When I watched younger colleagues chase recognition through noise, I realized the truth that age teaches quietly. Influence grows when effort aligns with structure, not applause. There is a particular strength that appears later in life. It is the strength that no longer needs validation to feel grounded. It is built from years of observing patterns, enduring dismissals, and learning how decisions shape consequences long before those consequences become visible. People may underestimate someone who chooses calm over confrontation, but calm is often the space where strategy matures. What others call passivity is sometimes preparation. In my final months at the company, I moved differently. Not faster, not louder, simply with intention shaped by everything I had witnessed. I no longer sought approval from people who misunderstood value. Instead, I positioned myself where systems ensured fairness even when individuals did not. That shift altered more than opportunities. It altered my sense of autonomy. The need to prove myself dissolved because the structure carried the proof. For anyone in their 50s or beyond, there is a lesson hidden within the quiet moments that younger professionals often overlook. You do not need to match another person's volume to maintain your place. You need clarity, timing, and the willingness to let the process reveal what emotion tries to hide. When circumstances seem dismissive, step back and observe rather than react. Let the system speak on your behalf when the moment arrives. The most lasting victories come not from confrontation, but from alignment with truth. And truth, when supported by patience, does not crumble.